All right. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Katie Cleesby, and I am the founder and CEO of Rexpert. And this is our weekly Wellness Wednesdays. And I'm very excited today to introduce to you Autumn Yates. She's going to be presenting a topic on exploring nature together, tips and tricks for outdoor family adventures. Autumn Yates is a Virginia-based freelancer writer. She enjoys exploring all corners of the state with her tween and toddler daughters. And you can actually read about her family-friendly adventures at youngvirginians.com. She also has an Instagram at youngvirginians, and we're excited to learn all about our awesome outdoor experiences right in our backyard. Welcome, Autumn.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie, for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right. I will go ahead and get started. Before we get into the meat of the presentation, I just wanted to introduce myself a little more, talk a little bit about myself. As Katie said, I am Autumn Yates. I am the mom of a 2-year-old and a 12-year-old. I'm currently a freelance writer. I write for small local businesses, blog posts, emails, newsletters, that sort of thing. And I am also a former teacher. I was a Spanish teacher for 16 years before leaving when my youngest daughter was born, and then eventually starting my own business. I was born and raised in New York, but I am a Virginia resident and have lived here in Virginia for nearly 17 years and love exploring all over the state. And I would describe myself as outsidey. I saw this recently in a social media post talking about the difference between outdoorsy and outsidey, how the poster said something along the lines of, I don't really want to clean a fish, but I will happily roast s'mores with you. I don't want to do a week-long backpacking trip, but I will absolutely hike that 2 miles to the local beautiful waterfall. And I feel like that kind of describes me nicely. I love being outside. I'm happy to be out all day exploring, seeing new sights with my kids, or even alone or with other friends and family members. But in the evening, I love coming back and curling up with a book in my own comfy bed or watching a movie on the couch with my husband, visiting museums and exploring other indoor places in my spare time. So I enjoy that balance, and I think that balance is important for everyone. So moving into my presentation, I wanted to talk a little bit today about some myths connected to spending time outside with your kids. Then I'm going to move into some of my favorite park-based resources, a couple of books that I found really inspiring for exploring Virginia with family, some online resources that I'd recommend, some supplies that I think are important to bring along, and then we'll just wrap it up at the end with a conclusion. So first of all, some outdoor family myths. One, you need to be outside for a prescribed amount of time for it to count. That does not need to happen. If you're outside for 15 minutes, it counts. If you're outside for half an hour, it counts. If you're outside for the whole day, certainly it counts. But the important is that quality of the time that you're spending, not necessarily the quantity. It's not a true adventure unless you've traveled a far distance. There are trails in my neighborhood, in my hometown, that we explore sometimes and find new things and see new animals and find new trail offshoots. And it's just as much of an adventure as when we traveled to Southwest Virginia. There are places near and far where your kids can see new things and explore, and you can experience the wonder through their eyes. You have to pitch a tent. In case my outsidey definition wasn't clear earlier, you do not necessarily have to be out all week. You do not have to camp. If you love to camp, that's amazing. Go for it. I'm a lifelong Girl Scout. I'm a Girl Scout leader. I certainly go camping, but it's not necessary. Sometimes online I see people new to hiking and exploring with their kids asking hundreds of questions about should we camp when we go there? What do you need for camping? All of these things, all valid questions if you really want to do it. But if you don't, you can still have great adventures during the day with your family. Outside adventures look the same for everyone. That it really depends on your family. It depends on what you enjoy doing together. It depends on what your limits are. It depends on what your kids' limits are. So outdoor adventures will vary greatly, and there's no one prescribed adventure that is more valuable or more worthwhile than another. If your family enjoyed it and had a good time, that is the important thing. Uh, Down here, everyone in the family has to participate in every activity. This is one that has come to light a lot in my family. As I mentioned, I have a toddler and a tween. So they have very different limitations, very different interests. We certainly go out as a family of four and do activities together, but sometimes it just makes sense to do things with one or with the other. My oldest loves ziplining, loves adventure courses. That's not something that my 2-year-old can do. So those are often activities that she and I will do together. My little one, I have a flexible work schedule during the week. My little one, when she's not in preschool, is home with me. There are times when we go visit places that are really busy on the weekends and take advantage of them being a little bit more empty and open while her big sister's at school. So there's still lots of adventures you can have in small group pairings within your family, in addition to those big adventures. And then finally, you have to stick to the plan. I'm type A. I love making plans, but sometimes plans don't work out. Sometimes the weather changes. Sometimes there's a trail closure. Sometimes, the mood of the people in your group make it so that your original plan is probably not going to work out. There's nothing wrong with shifting, trying something different, changing your mind at the last minute, coming up with a new idea and rolling with that. All totally valid things to do when you're exploring outside with kids. Now we're going to talk a little bit about some park-based incentives and programs that I have found really valuable. Some are pretty well known. You might have already heard of them. Some maybe less so, but all of these in their own way really add up to being great opportunities to springboard adventures with your children outside. The first is Every Kid Outdoors. This amazing, amazing program gives the opportunity to every fourth grader in the United States to have a free national park pass for an entire year, the entire time that they're in fourth grade. So you can register at the very beginning of September of their fourth grade year, and the pass goes from September 1st until August 31st of the following year. You can certainly register at any time during that time period if, right now it's January. If your child is in fourth grade and you say, oh my gosh, I didn't know about that program, you can certainly log in now and get the pass for the remainder of the school year and into the summer. It's a great resource. Where I live here in Northern Virginia, it means that your child and the other people in your vehicle will have free admission to places like Shenandoah, Great Falls, Harpers Ferry, Prince William Forest Park, and then lots of other sites in Maryland, farther down in Virginia, and then elsewhere all over the country that normally charge admission to see national parklands. So it's a great way to see parklands for free, whereas you might be spending $20, $25, $30, $35 for admission. And it's also really empowering for your fourth grader. My daughter actually would carry I had to give her a little lanyard with a little plastic sleeve, because when we would go places when she was in fourth grade, she would hold it out like this when she was hiking so that everybody could see that she was a fourth grader. And I just was thinking like, oh my gosh, at some point this is going to fall off a ledge or into a river or something. So I had to get her a little protective sleeve for it. But it was really neat to see her just be so proud that she was the one getting us into these places, and she was the one providing us with admission. Once you're in those parks, there are junior ranger programs. These are not a secret. They're pretty well publicized. Most national parks and some state parks offer junior ranger programs. And essentially, you could go to a visitor center, you get an activity booklet, and then you have a certain number of activities that you have to complete in the activity booklet in order to receive a badge back at the visitor center at the conclusion of your visit. It is varying based on age. So sometimes there's completely different activities for different age groups. Like last time we were at Harpers Ferry, that's how it was set up. And then most places will tell you, depending on the age range of the child, that's how many pages they have to complete in the booklet. So maybe for like a 5 to 7-year-old, they do 4 pages, whereas an older child might do 10 pages. It's a great learning opportunity. It's a great way to learn about the park that you're going to. It's a nice little guide because it'll encourage you to perhaps visit certain trails or do several different activities while you're in the park. And there's actually no maximum age. So you can walk in there at 75 years old and ask for a junior ranger booklet and explore and come back and get your badge. I was at a national park once and I ran into a family with older teens. One was college bound, and both girls were working on their junior ranger booklets. And the mom told me that it was, I don't know, their 150th junior ranger badge or something that they were working on, that they both had vests at home with over 100 of these badges. And it's just a special activity that they did together as a family that they discovered when the girls were young. And it was a bonding experience for them, and they were going to continue doing it for as long as their kids wanted it to do well into adulthood. One pro tip I would suggest is, if possible, check the park's website and see if you could print up the booklet ahead of time. There's a couple of reasons for this. One is it lets you know if there's any in-park requirements that you're supposed to do before completing the badge, so you can kind of plan your visit accordingly. So when we got the Shenandoah one, for example, I know one of the requirements was to attend a ranger talk. So I said, oh, okay. So I sat down and I looked online and I saw what the ranger talks were for that day. And Shenandoah is a big park. So if you miss a ranger talk, the next ranger talk might be an hour and a half away. So I made sure that we were there in plenty of time to attend that ranger talk so that my daughter could get that signature in her book. The other reason for printing up the booklet ahead of time is some of the activities are certainly ones that you want to do in the park. They're journaling based on what you're seeing, or maybe you're drawing pictures or a scavenger hunt, whereas other activities are crossword puzzles or word searches, things that are a great introduction to the park and give you some history, some information, some context about what you're going to see, but not necessarily activities that you have to do while you're there. So I, if possible, will print that up and give that to my daughter, and she'll do some of those activities ahead of time so that when we get to the park, we're really doing the hands-on things while we're there. And, that's a good use of our time. It also is more advantageous when I have a little one who, her time limits are a little bit more of a constraint when we're out and about. She tends to hit her limit a little bit earlier than my big one. If my oldest one has completed everything before we were planning on leaving, then we can go ahead and get her ranger badge on our way out of the park. Oh, and I should also mention that yes, it's a program with national parks, but there are several Virginia state parks that have junior ranger booklets as well. Speaking of Virginia state parks, this is actually one of my favorite programs. It's near and dear to my heart. It's called Trail Quest. And Trail Quest is a Virginia state park initiative to encourage people to visit all 42 of their state parks. And Virginia has a really robust state park system. They've added several in recent years. I know there are plans to add at least one more within the next several years. And they're all over the state, and they cater to all different interests. There are parks set in mountains, parks on rivers. There's a great park on the Eastern Shore with Chesapeake Bay beachfront. There are parks with rock formations. There are parks with wild ponies. There are parks where you can forage for pawpaws, a native wild fruit, and eat them right there. That was a favorite of both of my girls. And so just all these different adventures that you can explore as you're visiting these different parks. And as you visit them, you create an account in the website, and then you log in and you log your visit, and you get little pins in the mail. So when you visit your first park, you get a welcome email. And then when you visit your fifth, you get a little pin in the mail. When you visit your 10th, your 20th, your 30th, you also get pins in the mail. And then when you visit your 42nd, you actually get one final master hiker pin. Everyone in your group gets a certificate, and that certificate's presented to you in a little ceremony at the state park of your choice. And you pose for pictures, and they talk about you on their social media channels. And so it's just a fun family activity to work towards. My family, we've actually just visited our 20th park last month, and so we got our little 20 park pin in the mail. It's up here on the top of my screen. And it's been a great opportunity to learn more about the state, to visit beautiful, beautiful places. And also, as I'm planning trips to visit these different state parks, I'm discovering other activities in the area. So we're finding festivals and nature preserves and cool playgrounds and museums. So all sorts of different activities that kind of make a full vacation take shape. So it's really been a blessing to have found this program and get to see our state a little bit at a time and just see all the beautiful places that are available to us. There are other Virginia State Park programs as well. There's Paddle Quest, which is very similar to Trail Quest, except, as you can probably guess, it takes place on the water. You have to either rent or put in your own kayak, canoe, SUP, you know, water vehicle of your choice, or you could participate in one of their on-site programs. And same thing, you get little incentives in the mail. It's not all 42 parks, because not all parks have a navigable body of water. It's, I forget the number now, it's 30 something that you can visit. There are geocaching opportunities, both in Virginia state parks and national parks. When I took my Girl Scout troop to Harper's Ferry a couple of years ago, there were a couple of girls who were really interested in geocaching, and another mom took them off to find the local spot and see what was available there. But I know Virginia State Parks has a page about it as well. Dark Sky Parks. This isn't an incentivized program, just something I wanted to mention. Virginia, as a state, is the state, how do I say this? East of the Mississippi, Virginia has more internationally rated dark sky parks than any other state. There are other states with more, but they're out west, out in the mountains. And that's happened within the past several years. And that's a testament to local parks really attempting to minimize ambient light as much as possible and create spaces where the stars are more visible than they are anywhere else on the East Coast. There are, like I said, there are 5 dark sky parks. 4 of them are Virginia state parks. And all 4 of them have programs where anybody can go and learn a little bit about what's going on in the night sky at that particular time, and then get to look through telescopes and actually see for themselves what is visible from the sky. And then there's lots of other special events as well if you check the website. Moving on, I also wanted to mention a little bit about Track Trails. Track Trails is a program through the Kids in Parks website, and track trails are all over the country in all different types of parks, state parks, national parks, more regional and local parks and trails. And essentially, it's a trail that has been designated just a great hike for children, a really good family-friendly hike. They're usually not terribly long. They're usually not terribly intensive for young legs. And for each trail, there's usually a couple of options of adventures that you can do along the trail. Some track trails will have a kiosk where you can actually grab a brochure, and then some will have a QR code where you can look up online what the different adventures are. And then you get to do the little activity as you're doing the hike. So you might be doing a little scavenger hunt to find signs of animal life or plant life. The one that my daughter is doing in this photo is at Wolf Trap. They have a track trail there, and it was like an animal fitness one, which actually fits perfect with Rexpert. It will give facts about certain animals, like how fast they can certain animals can flap their wings, or how fast they can run, or how fast certain animals can jump. And then it has like an exercise challenge component where the kids get to try and do the same thing at different stops along the way. So that was a really fun one that we tried. But similar to some of the other programs I mentioned, there is a website. You log in, you can log your different adventures, and then your kids receive just little prizes along the way. So it's a great way to get out, see some new trails, have the trail essentially planned out for you. Very minimal planning, as long as you know that there is an adventure available, and maybe take a look ahead of time, decide what you think might be fun for your family. It's all right there, and you just get to go and hike and enjoy yourself and try out the adventure that they suggest. And then I just wanted to do a final little plug in this section for your regional, your county, your city and local parks and playgrounds. As I said before, don't discount adventures in your own backyard. There are plenty of beautiful spots everywhere, all over the state, all over the country, really. And if you can't make it to a national park, if you can't make it to a state park, find your local pond, find your local trail, and see what you can and spot. This was our first day hike this month. Um, and my girls are just at a local park walking around a lake that's like 10 minutes from our house. And they had just as much fun as if we would have traveled farther. So definitely worthwhile. I also wanted to talk a little bit about some books that have been really useful for us as we've planned some of our outdoor adventures here in Virginia. One is Hiking with Kids Virginia. It's got, oh, it says 50, but there's actually more than 50 hikes listed in here that are all deemed family friendly. It's organized by region. So there's a section on Northern Virginia, Central Virginia, the Shenandoah Valley, Southwestern Virginia, the Hampton Roads area, all over the state. There are a list of hikes for that state, and then each hike has photos, maps, suggestions for where to start, where to stop, explanations of distances, elevation, anything else you should know. It gives information about whether it's a waterfall hike or if it has a rock scramble or if it's really good for very, very young children. So just a great resource if you are planning a trip somewhere else in Virginia and you just want to see what trails are out there. This is one of my go-to books for doing that. The author is Erin Gifford. She has a couple of other books too. She has one devoted to coastal hikes in Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia that is geared towards a wide audience, not just children. Same with her book about summit hikes. Those are all within Virginia. But both of those books, while geared towards a wide audience, will note if the hike is child-friendly. So those are good resources as well if you're looking to get out and about with a family or even on your own to explore and hike a little bit throughout Virginia. Virginia is for Adventurers is one of my favorite resources. It's a fiction book. There is a main character named Meg, and her family has decided to partake in a scavenger hunt that will take them all over the state, stopping at different love signs and completing different adventures along the way as they solve clues and then find out their list of adventures for the next day in the next region of the state. Just a super cute story. It is so full of ideas, of places to visit, of things to see, both nature and in history. It's for those of you with a fourth grader who complete the Virginia Studies curriculum over the course of fourth grade and their science and social studies classes. It's a wonderful companion because it hits on a lot of what they're going to learn about in school. And it has been a great inspiration for us as we've planned adventures. I have a few photos here from some of the places that we learned about and the activities we learned about that I had not known existed here in Virginia. So in chapter 3, they go into the Shenandoah Valley and then up into the mountains and talk about Falling Spring Falls, which is just a gorgeous waterfall. It's on the side of the road. You pull off into a parking lot and then walk down the walkway about 100 feet, and there's this beautiful waterfall. And there are picnic tables outside and a kiosk where you can learn more information about the Allegheny Highlands. And just this gorgeous place in the state that we learned about from this book. We visited Big Walker Lookout, which is a somewhat terrifying, in my opinion, 100-foot climb to the top of this observation deck. My adventurous 12-year-old loved it though. And from the top, you can see multiple states because it's situated farther down in Southwest Virginia. And in the distance, you could make out Tennessee and Kentucky, supposedly North Carolina too, if you're looking in the right direction. So just a really unique vantage point to just sort of be outside and see for a long distance all of the nature that surrounds you. And then I'm actually pretty proud of this photo down here. We're not really cyclists, but the book talked about the Virginia Creeper Trail, which is a 33-mile trail in Southwest Virginia. And the most popular part is the first 17 miles. You rent a bike, and your bike rental van will take you to the top of White Top Mountain, which is the second highest mountain in Virginia, after Mount Rogers, which is also in that same area. And you just ride 17 miles down a gently sloped mountain trail until you get back to the town of Damascus. And my daughter and I looked at each other and we were like, let's try it. So we did it. She really wanted to do it. She doesn't love balancing on a two-wheel bike, so she was able to rent a three-wheeler. The rental company we went through also has trailers for young children. They have adapted trailers for special needs adults that would like to come down the mountain. All sorts of different types of bikes for people who have different skills and ability levels and interests. So that was just a really special adventure that we had together that if you had asked me a few years ago, I would have been like, what? 17 miles biking down a mountain? That's crazy. But you know, with the book made it sound fun and approachable for young kids. And I looked more into it, and we were going to be down there anyway for to visit a couple of state parks. And I said, well, let's see. And we loved it, and we would do it again. So I'm super grateful to this book for these adventures and so many others that I've posted on my blog that we wouldn't have known about if it weren't for this for this book. Moving into some online resources. The first one's super simple. Sometimes I just do a Google search for something new in my area. My oldest, I mentioned, loves to zip line. And, you know, zip lining all the time is not always feasible. The parks are usually seasonal. They cost a decent amount of money. Sometimes it's tricky to bring my toddler along. So one day I just said, I wonder what is out there. So I Googled playgrounds near me with zip lines, and several popped up. This one is just a super fun one. It's in a residential area. We've been a few times. There's never really more than a few kids at a time when we go. And we never would have found it if I hadn't just aimlessly decided to search and see what was out there. A couple of months ago, we were looking for a hike and local hike. And I thought, well, let's see if we can find one that we haven't done yet in this area. And so I Googled kid-friendly hikes near me or something like that. And I found one with photos of a swinging bridge over a creek. And so we went to a park that I've been to dozens of times. I didn't know this particular trail existed, and we hiked to the swinging bridge and had fun crossing it and swinging on it, and it was great. And again, something that if I hadn't just decided to search, I wouldn't have known was there. So Google was definitely my friend in these two circumstances. Another recommendation is to follow Parks and Rec social media accounts. So county parks, regional parks, nature centers, botanical gardens, national parks, state parks, individual national parks have their own accounts. And then there's also the official national park overarching account, which is hilarious. Like, you should follow it just because they're so funny. But these are just a great way to see what's going on in your area. They'll post different activities, different events, different classes or ranger-led programs. And it's just a nice way to just kind of see them pop up in front of you and know that there's something, you know, right there that you can try this weekend. And so this is a screenshot from Fairfax Parks about their first hike photo contest, where they were encouraging people to visit their local county parks, snap a picture, send it in, and then they recently posted their finalists for people to judge, and the winners were going to receive prizes. So just, you know, something that I learned about from their social media posts. Our local, a nearby nature center was doing a Halloween trail for kids back in October that I read about, and we signed up for, and it was great. My kids wore costumes and they went down the trail, and there were volunteers in the woods along the way acting out different stories and, you know, doing trick or treat. And again, something that I learned about from just following that center's social media page. So there's just a host of great ideas without you having to even search for them. They're all right there and current. You know, it'll be things for this weekend, things for next weekend. So that's a great resource as well if you're interested in finding activities via social media. Go Hike Virginia is another great resource. So this is the website of Erin Gifford. She's the one who wrote the book about the hikes all over Virginia. She has a completely free website where she posts all of the different hikes she's done, and she has done hundreds all over the state. And each one has photos and again, information about the trail itself and how long it is and what the elevation gain is and what you can see along the way. So that's a really awesome resource if you're looking for hikes in a particular part of Virginia. Um, Supplies that you might want to bring with you while you're doing these outdoor adventures. I find it helpful to have some weather gear prepared. Rain and winter gear is nice, especially if you don't know if the weather's going to change while you're out and about. It's nice to have some extra things in your car. This is a little fold-up rain suit that fits in a pouch that has been one of my favorite purchases because it goes right over my daughter's clothes. She also looks like a little duck when she wears it, which is like an added bonus. And it has expanded some of our outdoor time because even if you don't like going out in rain, it's something that you can, if it has rained and it's not raining anymore, it's a great little thing to have because she can go down slides in it or climb on playground equipment if it's not too slippery and she's not getting soaking wet while she's doing it. Having a change of clothes is helpful in case the kids do get muddy or wet. And then a bag for wet or muddy items is also a good thing to have on hand. I'd seen a mom online say that she gets those huge reusable IKEA blue bags and she keeps those in her car. And if her kids get particularly gross and muddy, she'll just open one for each of them, put them on the ground. They stand in it and take off their muddy things so it falls right into the bag before they climb in the car. And then she just puts the bag full of stuff in the car to worry about later, and she doesn't have to worry about her car getting gross. So I thought that was a really great tip. My second tip is all the snacks, way more than you think you need. A whole variety on hand. Both of my kids, I feel like, eat a snack every 20 minutes when we're out and about. So definitely good to have in mind. I would say to be mindful of what you bring depending on what time of year it is. Granola bars, for example, I only bring in the spring and the fall because in the summer, if they have chocolate chips, they get melty. And in the winter, they like almost freeze up and get too hard to eat. So just keep that in mind when you're planning what you're going to bring along with you. And then maps. The only thing worse than getting lost in the woods is getting lost in the woods when you have children with you. So if you know where you're going, that is definitely key. There are different apps available with GPS mapping. Some of them have downloadable maps. Some are free, some cost money. It's kind of up to you. Avenza, I think, is a free option. I'm pretty sure I think that's the one that all of Virginia State Park maps are on there. Downloading something with downloading features is awesome because if you do wind up somewhere where you don't have good satellite service, then you still have the map in front of you. Most of the hikes that we go on, at least in my area, I still have GPS service usually. So I really like Strava. I pay the fee for the Pro app, and it allows me to see exactly where we are on the trail and which direction we need to head. So if we come to a fork, I can kind of zoom out and see like where I parked and if this is going to take me back to where I parked or not, or if there's an alternative route back. And so that's actually a screenshot of our map from the hike that we took to the little swinging bridge that I showed. We walked down and then I was able to look on the map and see that the trail that followed the river would also get us back to where we parked. So definitely a helpful tool to have on hand if possible. And then wrapping it up, I would say if you're looking to get outside with kids, these are just some final tips. Start small, within your comfort zone. You don't need to tackle old rag right now. Start with something nearby, a new trail that is kid friendly and spend 20 minutes exploring it and see if you want to do more. Find what works for your family because like I said, every family is different. Every family's needs are different. Every family's interests are different. So if it works for you, great. If not, try something different. Don't worry if the person down the street says that it's the best thing ever. If it doesn't work for you, it's not worth it. Temper your expectations because sometimes these adventures go great, sometimes they don't, and that's okay. You try again next time. You figure out again what works for you, what doesn't, and use it as a learning experience, and you move from there. And then have fun. I mean, anytime you're out traveling, there's going to be some stressful components to it, right? You're responsible for young children, and everybody's moods and everybody's needs and everybody's snacks. And so there's certainly always going to be that, that emotional side of it too. But the more you try and have fun yourself and show that you're having fun, the more your kids are going to pick up on that and the more fun that they're going to have too. Because if we're walking stressfully and nervously through the woods, it's not going to be fun for them. But if we're able to get in the moment and stop and notice the things that they're noticing, then it's really going to be that much more worthwhile for them and something that they're really going to want to continue doing. And that brings me to this final quote that I found that I thought was kind of powerful. Sorry, I think I muted myself there by accident. Let me go back. There are no 7 wonders of the world in the eyes of a child. There are 7 million. So kids are going to notice little miracles everywhere they go. And as parents, we have the opportunity to let them rest in that wonder and explore and find a love for nature. And that is pretty much all I have. Thank you for following along with me and listening. Katie mentioned some ways to find me earlier. This is my professional webpage for people looking for some writing support. That's an email address where you can reach me about anything, professional or tips, whatever you'd like. I post some of our little adventures on my Instagram account at Young Virginians, and then I blog a little bit about our adventures at youngvirginians.com. But thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Autumn. I'm just like so much wonderful experience you've had with your kids. I think that's so awesome. Like your kids will remember this forever, it sounds like you're such a great mom.
Oh,
All the little details and, you've really put a lot of thought and time into making this like fun for them and finding different like ways and places and trails and so this is just awesome information. And I really think more families in Virginia need to know about all this. So I had a couple questions.
Sure.
What was your best and worst, like favorable or worst experience with your kids out there? Like, I don't know, maybe you got caught in a rainstorm, thunderstorm, or maybe there was this amazing moment you had on the cliff and somebody said something or
Oh, let's see. So one of the iconic spots in terms of Virginia state parks is visiting Grayson Highland State Park. It's up in the mountains. It's in Southwest Virginia, and it is absolutely gorgeous. It is beautiful. It is 100% worth a visit. But my daughter got car sick partway up the mountain. And that was probably like just one of the worst. You're on the side of this narrow road and trying to clean out the car seat and clean her and figure out, do we turn around? Do we keep going? Because we were 10 minutes from the park. Like that was one of my least favorite moments, I would say. We waited there for a bit. She had a snack, she had some water, she was feeling better, and we did keep going. And we went up there and it was gorgeous. We found the wild ponies, we saw the views. So it was one of those like, it was great, but also really horrible at the same time. And it's funny because I planned that trip for a really long time, and the kids, they had a wonderful time. We did that. We did lots of things in Southwest Virginia. It's, just an incredible destination for family-friendly activities. But in terms of actual state park visits, I really thought that was going to be like the pinnacle, the one that they would always remember.
Yeah.
But both of them, my little one can't really express this, but in terms of how she expressed herself and in terms of what my 12-year-old verbalized, both of them absolutely loved Powhatan State Park, which is just a few hours from here. It's on the James River. It's a low-key park, much quieter. just a place where people like to go and walk their dogs or take hikes. It's not super strenuous. You're not in the mountains. Um, and we went, and that was where I think I mentioned it earlier. We were just taking a little hike along the river, and a ranger joined us. She happened to be hiking too, and she said, "Hey, do you want to learn how to forage for pawpaws?" And my kids were like, okay.
Yeah.
And so she showed them what they looked like and how to tell if they were ripe, and how you need to pick them off the ground and not from the tree, and how to open them and what parts you can eat and what parts you can't eat. And then she showed us a few other things in the forest that were edible. And we hiked to just a pretty overlook where you could see the river. And then we went to the park's playground afterwards. And my kids just had the best day. And it was, I mean, honestly, for me, it was a park that I was just, checking off because we're going through and visiting all of the parks. But my daughter will still say that is one of the 20 we visited, that's one of her favorite. And I think it just was just, we got this special attention and we got to do this unique thing that you can only do at certain times of year because pawpaws have a short season and they have a short shelf life. So you can't find them in stores. So you have to be out in nature where they grow to try them. And yeah, it's funny. It went from being just like something we're going to do today to this great family memory um, that is, I think, will stick with all three of us for a long time.
Oh, I love that. I didn't even know what La Pawpaw was. I guess I'll have to research that.
Yeah, yeah, they're like they kind of taste like a cross between a banana and a mango. Um, and they grow in Virginia, out into Ohio, and like I said, their shelf life. It's I think September through October is really when you can find them. And they're supposed to be eaten raw. Like there are recipes, but unadvisable to cook them. And my kids love my 2-year-old was running around the forest yelling pawpaw pawpaw pawpaw. So
Oh my gosh, I love it. Yeah, and there's like
yeah,
Pawpaw Tunnel and like Pawpaw County, or like the name is around here in different ways. So I wonder if that it was from that.
maybe, yeah, I definitely think that's possible. It's something that I really didn't know anything about beforehand, but that park, Powhatan State Park, this past year had their very first Pawpaw Festival, and it was a success. So they're going to make it an annual event. So we're already talking about maybe going back to that park for the festival and just kind of checking it out.
Oh, that's awesome. My last question is, how did you get the buy-in for your kids? Like initially, or was this, did like the motivation come as you went along and explore new things, or were they like, oh, another park, or were they excited?
Yeah, that's a good question. My youngest one, I think, has really just been along for the ride. Because she's 10 and a half years younger than her sister, I definitely have been doing more with her from a young age than I think I did with her sister, just because I have a big kid who wants to be out doing things. So for her, it's kind of what she knows. I do think she is, even at this age, a teensy bit more of a homebody than her big sister. My oldest is like up for anything. She's very adventurous. Like I said, I mean, she wants to run her own zip line or ropes course in the future. Like that's what she wants to do for a living. Whereas I don't really know where she gets it. Like her father and I very much like gravity and that it keeps us on the ground, where she is like, get me 50 feet in the air. So some of it might just be her personality. I will say that some of those more incentivized things have motivated her to, like, she got so excited when the 20 park pin came in the mail. And it's just a pin, like it's just a little metal thing that we stick on a hat. We have a hat with the different pins we've earned so far. But something about that, about like keeping track and counting, was something that really appealed to her. The ranger badges too was something that she found kind of fun and interesting. The first day hike that we did with the photo contest, she was like, well, can I enter too? And I looked and there was no minimum age requirement. And so I said, yeah, you and I can each enter separately. And so that was really fun for her to bring her camera and take pictures and get to pick which one she thought, was most contest worthy to enter. Um, so I do think some of those little external motivators can kind of help bring in some of that internal motivation too, because she definitely has bought in, and I'm hoping that the little one, like I said, she's with us and she's doing it, and she definitely has her share of fun too. But I'm hoping that that she kind of feels some of that excitement rolling off her sister as she grows older, and it's something that we continue to do as they grow up, and even once they're grown too.
Oh, I love it. And who knew there were so many free resources out there, especially in the parks area. I mean, that's part of, so Rexpert, we are partnering with local parks and recs to offer all their classes on our web app, as well as individual coaches. But it'd be great to show families, all these resources. And yeah, I had a question. Do you mind if we divide this into like real reels, part of this
Oh, sure.
presentation, and tag like your social media when we follow, to put it out there? Cause I was like, oh man, how do we get this like on our channels? I'm writing down I'm like, why am I writing all this down? She already has this in a presentation. I should just like do snippets of it. Like,
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Go for it.
okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much. I even want to try out some of these, like that book, The Sea Coastal Trails. We have a little condo in Norfolk, Virginia. We were just
Oh,
there last
nice.
night. Um, and I'm taking a break from Ironmans and trying out pickleball and hiking and different things. And so maybe I loved how you started this presentation when you said that you're outsidey. Because I would definitely agree. And, with that statement, because I'm not, like you said, I'm not out to camp overnight. I would like a hotel room,
Yeah.
like, but I would love to be outside, and I want to spend as much time as I can outside. But with an indoor toilet would be great.
I am with you on the indoor toilet for sure.
So love that. And I guess I didn't even think, that there was something in the middle. Like I have friends who are on the other end of the spectrum who are super hikers, and, will hike Old Rag and get up at 4 a.m. and do the whole thing, and, do the whole mountain chain. And I'm like, oh man, hiking's not for me. But maybe after watching this presentation, I'm like, she does it with her kids. I can do this.
Yeah.
Like,
We just did one of the hikes from, I'm pretty sure it's in the coastal book, out in Kilmarnock, which is in the northern neck, and it was Hewlett Point Nature Preserve. Totally flat, like completely flat, and just beautiful and not intensive. I mean, I think we hiked maybe a mile. You could extend it and do like a mile and a half, but the walk to the beach is like a third of a mile. So there's so many great options out there to be out hiking without feeling like you're hiking, which I think is great here in
yeah.
the state.
We have two little Shih Tzus too, and so like some of the kids friendly ones would be good for their little 10-pound bodies.
Right, right. This is this. There are a couple of people out walking their little dogs when we were out there. This would have been perfect for sure.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Um, Great. I'm gonna stop the recording
Okay.
and